Yeah, you could say that this exhibition is a sequel to the exhibition that we did in London at the Victoria and Albert Museum. We continue the story of Norman Swan, who is an elderly architect in the 70s. He was not a very successful architect, but he could survive with a family fortune.
We're sitting in Norman's bedroom, and Norman had to move from his big grand flat in South Kensington in London. Now Norman is back in New York, where he spent some time in the 80s, and he's back to a place that is a little bit smaller than his family home, and Norman used all the family fortune. He had to get a smaller place in New York. Inga and I like to invent these fictional characters, maybe because we're an artist duo, two persons. We like to create a third persona and put characteristics from ourselves and things we have experienced into these characters and make a story out of it.
There are many layers that people can explore if they spend some time in the exhibition. When the audience walk around, they might realize that there are some meta levels in it. There are certain references to our own art. For instance, the vulture that is on top of the bedpost of Norman's grand bed is a figure that has followed us for the last 4 years or so. It's a figure that we call the critic. That might refer more to our inner critic than the critics that come and see the show. There are certain models and drawings that refer to the more architectural work that we have done. There's of course the sculpture on the top of the piano that is more, say, maybe homosexual version of a very famous surrealist artwork from Magritte. The boy figure on top of the cupboard, you can recognize the same boy on a painting on the wall as well. The boy is almost kind of a ghost-like figure. These adolescent figures reappear often in our work. They are somehow images of expectations towards the future, the difficulties of growing up, and a question about which values that we pass on to the next generation.
Or they're all working sketches from how he imagined the piers being renovated in a complete different way. Of course, we know today that the piers were renovated by another architecture company, and it was never him doing it. But there's his vision of how they could have looked like.
These were, of course, back in the day used as cruising areas, meeting places for gay men in the 80s. A time when also Norman spent a lot of time in New York. This was back then a sort of utopian project. We've also written a script and published a small book that gives you more information on who this person, Norman Swan, is. We like the idea that the experience of an exhibition continues beyond just the time you spend in the gallery.
The way we kind of organize our living situations tell a lot about our lifestyles, our desires, our beliefs, our phobias, our social status, etc. And these exhibitions are almost an extended version of interior painting from the 19th century, and with all the psychological layers in them, as this painting tradition also has. Norman is also sort of a symbol of the old Europe, with some classic virtues linked to the European culture. Norman, who maybe has a bit of a misconception of his own role in the world today. We want people to come to the space and almost act like private detectives or naughty guests in someone's home and sneak around and get all the different clues and see all the details.
The audience can go around and look at Norman's artifacts, try to imagine this person by studying his taste, going through his papers, looking at his bookshelf, seeing what music he played on the piano, reading his letters, looking at his photo albums.
All the kind of things that can give them a sense of Norman's life. In that way, it's different from other exhibitions where you have to look at the sculptures and appreciate them. Here you come into something that looks like a private home, and hopefully it can make people a bit more relaxed.